Hi, welcome back to Torin Talks, and I have been pulled out of retirement.
People keep asking if I'm back, and I haven't really had an answer. But now, yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
To talk about this one particular movie, because I was gonna make videos before this, and then I kept talking myself out of it. But this movie just literally, I was like, I gotta get on here and I gotta talk about it because it was that big of a dumpster fire. This movie was highly anticipated for a number of reasons. The first being that it is the most solid movie in the DCEU to date. And I don't know if that's really saying much, but it is. The first Wonder Woman is a pretty solid movie. I enjoyed the film. It was a good introduction to the character. And so I really enjoyed the first Wonder Woman film as a whole. So this one, I was really excited about. I was, it seemed like it was going to be a good movie. And it failed the same reason every movie that they have made in the DCEU, maybe with a slight exception to also Aquaman. And Man of Steel was good, but Man of Steel has a lot of problems. And those same problems have not even minimized. They just have been exacerbated over the course of 9 fucking movies until we come to this hot steaming mess that is Wonder Woman 84. So I'm just gonna kind of break down the biggest 3 reasons to me why this movie failed, and you can apply these reasons to every movie that DC's ever made in this DCEU verse. So the first thing that this movie suffers from, and one of the really big things, is that the characters are not consistent. And that is a big problem especially when you're trying to build a franchise or build movies that kind of stack on top of each other and kind of pull from each other. So when you're kind of building this ladder, if the first rung isn't right, you're not going to get to the top. When I think of Wonder Woman, I think of, a strong woman who is very successful and just kind of, she gets the job done. Like, she's no slouch. Like, when it comes to the Justice League, like, Wonder Woman's probably like the most OP person besides Superman himself. Just as she's kind of like this iconic female character. So to see her in this movie snotting and whining and crying over her boyfriend is just kind of like, I thought you were Wonder Woman. Like, this is not why I'm here for this movie. Like, if I wanted to see a chick crying over her dude, I'd be watching, a rom-com or something. I don't know. I'd be watching fucking Emily in Paris or whatever the shit. Like, I do that. I wouldn't be here in this movie. I don't feel like that was really genre savvy, and I don't feel like that was really necessary as far as, like, the plot. But it's just the betrayal of the core character. At Wonder Woman's core, she is this fighter. That's like her core. She's a fighter. And when you take that away and turn her into like this blubbering, crying mess, I mean, you really do all of her continuity and the character itself and her fans a huge, huge, huge disservice, in my opinion. The second thing that this movie really, really suffers from is a lack of direction or a lack of continuity, because there's no clear direction as to where they're going with this movie. It's just kind of like these characters aimlessly float around, and in the end, everything's undone. So it doesn't really, the stakes are all removed. And even it removes the stakes of the previous movie, because the whole kind of culmination was that she met this guy, met these humans, and saw that humans were actually worth fighting for. Despite like what her family told her about man being trash, she kind of came to her own conclusion, like, oh, they're not trash, like I can help the humans, I can help them out, and there's some good people down here and they're worth fighting for. And that was ultimately the message of the first movie, and that some sacrifices are worth it because it's for the greater good, which is why Chris Pine's character sacrificed himself for the greater good, which is completely undone when he just pops up in the 80s. Now, I know it's a movie, but mind you, this man fought in World War I. So at the youngest, let's say he's 19. But I know he's a little older than that because he doesn't look that young. So let's just give him 25. If he's 25 when World War I breaks out, that means he was born in the 1800s. Like, cars were new. Cars were just a thing. There was still like carriages and shit. The Model T was the hot thing on the street. And you're telling me we're all the way in 1984. Like, TV didn't exist. All this like, people barely had electricity. It was not a thing like that. And he's in this super modern world as far as he's concerned. And he just rolls with it. He's just cool with it. He's just like, you know, I mean, like, the world was hella different in 1917 versus, you know, now. World War I pilot flying a freaking modern day aircraft that they broke out of the Smithsonian that also just so happened to be flight ready. And I mean, planes are not like cars, okay? I mean, I guess it is like a car, but even cars, you cannot leave a car sitting up for a year, 2 years, 5 years, and then jump in it and it's just gonna go. Like, stuff's gonna break down because of time and decay, and it's just been sitting there. So unless they're just taking flights in this plane on a regular basis, if that's just like a museum plane, that plane's just sitting there. It's like atrophy for the plane. Like, you can't just go and just fire it up and it's just gonna be fine. Like, and they just happened to pick the plane that is just miraculously fueled up, miraculously working fine. And a lot of people had a problem with them turning that plane invisible, and that's kind of how they had the invisible jet. But I actually didn't mind that because that made a lot more sense than her just being like, oh, let's just go jump in my invisible jet, and it just parked outside like a BMW, like, and they just jump in it. Okay, I have powers and I made it invisible. That I could buy a little more than any of the alternatives. However, I still don't buy them flying from Washington, D.C. to Cairo, Egypt, and back, all in a less than 24-hour span of period of time, and on one tank of gas. And as the news stated in the show or in the film, they're in an oil crisis. So it's not like they just went to, you know, the Cairo 7-Eleven and filled up and drove it back. There's no gas. So what are they doing? And they just fly a plane halfway around the world and come back, like, what? And where did they park it? Back at the Smithsonian? And they just jumped out, and then everyone was just cool with them still in the plane and bringing it back. And even if they didn't do that, where did they park it? It's a freaking airplane. Did they just go to, like, she has a secret runway where she stashes all the planes she makes invisible after she steals them? Like, what? It's mind-blowing that he just adjusted to that. Well, like, we're not even adjusting to the difference between 2020 and 2019. So you're telling me this dude's adjusting to what? 60 plus years of change? I'm not buying it. I'm not believing it. Speaking of things that I'm not buying or believing, Kristen Wiig's character, absolute trash. Her character had no real motivation of why she was doing the things she was doing. Like, oh, you're not popular, so now you want to be popular, and you're mad because she's taking your popularity away. This 16 Candles, like, what am I watching? Give her a motivation that makes sense, or at least lay the foundation of this making sense. You get one wish out of the whole entire world, everything you ever want to be, and your ultimate wish, like when you get to the mega level wish at the end, when she's sitting in the plane and gets to the mega level wish. I guess I should have said this in the beginning, but spoilers. And quite frankly, I'm not even spoiling anything, because if you have seen this movie, you already know it's trash. And if you haven't seen it, don't do it to yourself. So I'm really not spoiling anything, but I'll just throw that, even though we're, 5 minutes in or whatever. Spoiler warning, I guess. She makes her little mega wish. And you're telling me the one thing out of everything, her ultimate wish is to be a fucking cheetah?
What?
I mean... I fucking guess. Her ultimate goal in life is to be a cheetah. And this movie has hands down some of the worst graphics I have seen. Like, I saw better graphic back in the day when Beast Wars was out. This was next level horrible. This script was awful. His characterization was awful. Max Lord in the comics is... Just go read the comics. Don't even bother with this movie. Just go buy comics. Well, actually, the first 10 minutes did it for me. Like, the first 10 minutes was awful. I hated the cheesy music. It reminded me of Spider-Man 3. And the children in this movie, oh God. That is a whole thing that irritates me to no end. And I understand that that's a personal preference. However, there's a right way to have children in a thing, and there's a wrong way. And this was completely all the wrong way. It's like, you see mass destruction happening. Like, at one point, like, Wonder Woman riding a fucking rocket and has to scoop up 2 children. So, you're telling me they're just playing in the middle of the desert and you don't hear these Humvees and tanks and gunfire 15, 20 miles down the road getting closer and closer and closer. You're playing soccer in the middle of the street with that going on, I guess, but, you know, I just feel like people kind of have a little bit of self-preservation, but what do I know? And so just those 3 things combined is people acting out of character, betraying their core ideals, and convoluted plots that lead nowhere is basically the reason why this movie failed, why Batman vs. Superman failed, why every other DC movie failed. And actually, there was nobody to root for in this movie. There was nobody interesting in this movie. And then the one thing that was kind of interesting, they completely just didn't care about it at the end. And when she found the armor of the old warrior, and then she's like, I didn't never find the warrior, she was missing. That was interesting. Then she's flying through the air. Next time we see her, she has on the gold suit. Like, she didn't even go home and just be like broken down, and then she looks at the armor and just like, oh yeah, like, let me be the badass I know. Like, even if they wanted to go with the whole, she's so heartbroken, she lost her love, and now she's flying away. A lot of people had a problem with her flying, but she flies in the comics, so read a fucking comic. Anyway, so she's flying, and if she gets home and just has this like, you know, she's crying over this dude, and then she sees that armor and then remembers who the hell she is and puts it on like, yeah, let's go. I could even forgive all of that because she came back to herself. Like, okay, she lost herself for a minute, now I'm back. There was none of that. Like, there was no moment of introspection. There was no moment of clarity for any of the characters. They tried to give Max Lord one at the end, and it was like, by that time it's like, dude, you're a horrible person. I don't really care, honestly. This is the same universe as Batman vs. Superman. You know what? I wish he hadn't renounced his wish, because then the whole universe could have blown up and we never would have got that abomination, because Bruce Wayne and everybody else would already been dead. I'm just really upset because DC has compelling characters. They have great characters, and I don't believe that Joker is the only great character. What I do know is the people who are making these movies are not taking the time to figure out what makes these characters have this longevity. What is the core ideal of these characters that kind of drives them to do the things that they do? And if they did know that, they would be able to make better movies. We are 9 movies in the DCEU somehow. I don't even know how all these movies got greenlit after Batman vs. Superman. I honestly don't know. Wonder Woman 84 is the 9th movie in the DCEU universe. When you compare that to the 9th movie in the Marvel franchise, which is Winter Soldier, come on. There's no comparison whatsoever. And it's just unfortunate that we all are stuck watching this abomination unfold movie after movie after movie after movie. And everyone keeps giving them chances because they feel like, okay, this one, they're going to stick the landing. Okay, this one, they're going to stick the landing. And they drop the ball every time. Every time. Aquaman, I will give them that exception. The first Wonder Woman, I would give them that exception. And Joker, I would give them that exception. But, I mean, that's still so inconsistent. And your big tentpole movies are failing miserably. Suicide Squad, it made a lot of money, but that movie was trash. Birds of Prey, I didn't like the movie. I like Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. I do like her character, but the movie was trash. Just like I do like Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, but I need them to give me something. Like, I feel like she has less personality in this movie than in the first one, and that's really hard. I just don't know. Like, they destroyed all the goodwill that the first Wonder Woman made. Other things to note, the world looked thin and cheap. The gold costume, I saw a meme online, I'm gonna post it right here, where someone said this was the final battle looked like, and I completely agree. That cheated graphic, CGI, whatever she was, awful. And oh, yeah, I can't leave without saying this. It was bad enough Wonder Woman was swinging around the beginning like Spider-Man, I'll allow it. But at the end, when they're having the big fight and the cheetah grabs a freaking live wire. Have you ever, well, obviously you've never grabbed a live wire because you're watching this video. Because if you had, you'd be dead. So it's bad enough she's swinging around on a live wire. She then is in water and Wonder Woman electrocutes her with the live wire. And she's still alive. You know what? That's a metaphor for the DCEU. They're just swinging around on a live wire, get electrocuted, and somehow they're still alive. Like, perfect metaphor for this, actually. I think I'm done ranting about Wonder Woman and how god awful it was. So if you stuck it out to the end, thank you for watching it, and I hope this wasn't too all over the place. I tried to have it kind of down in my mind, my points, but like literally when I start talking about that movie, just my eyes just like raged like Superman laser beams. Like I can't take it. And the director, Patty Jenkins, she's supposed to direct a Star Wars movie, and I don't know because if this is any indication of where that's headed. Let's just say, if that's the case, Rian Johnson's supposed to be really happy that she's entering, you know, the Star Wars universe so he can stop being the most hated person. Because, yeah, this was